Hi, everybody. It's Derek Perniciglio, and welcome to another episode of the Derek Perniciglio Show. And we have Andy Jankowiak, joining us on this episode of the show. Thank you for coming in, and coming in especially for this occasion because you were just happened to be in town.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on to the show.
So you came down to run North Wilkesboro this week, and then drop one of your ARCA cars off, right?
Yeah, one way or the other. Or we came down to drop the ARCA car off and ran North Wilkesboro. That was probably more of the way.
So that was more of like a last-minute decision to take the modified and go race?
So I knew I wanted to run North Wilkesboro. We've been always paid attention to that track while I was sitting over there, and obviously it was like the most famous abandoned racetrack just because the property just kept hanging on for whatever reason. It was always sitting there just looking like it wanted to go racing again. So we always kind of kept an eye on it, and we always wondered if it was ever going to happen. And when I seen they were going to have the race, I looked at it and I'm like, man, that isn't like the worst part of the year for me. Like, we were going from Pocono to Michigan to Watkins Glen this month with the ARCA car. I'm like, I don't know how we could pull that off. That'd just be tough. And turns out we wrecked the Pocono car, so it had to come down here for a body. So I'm like, perfect, we'll just bring them both.
Might as well bring the modified.
Yeah, why not? Didn't want to miss it. So.
And the best part was, I love that post that you did on social media. You did it old school style with an open trailer. You put the ARCA car and the modified bumper to bumper and just pulled it on down here, right? Yeah,
we got a friend that actually, our friend Mike Myers back home, he runs enduros. So when he goes to like the enduros, he'll have have like a figure eight car and an enduro car, so he needs to put two on the trailer. So I'm like, hey, can I borrow that like 3 times a year? So just because it's a 10-hour, 12-hour drive back and forth, and if I can move 2 at once, it saves me a trip. So this is the first time we actually raced off that trailer, so it was a little bit of an adjustment. We're kind of doing stuff out of the back of the truck, and we borrowed a lot of stuff from Paul Hartwig throughout the day and bugged those guys. And so but it worked out. We got through most of what we needed to do. I wish we ran a little bit better, just had some bad luck, and probably some stuff where we're just so busy with the ARCA car stuff right now that the modified stuff's probably lacking a little bit here and there. And but we wanted to run North Wilkesboro, and we gave it our best shot, and ended up just having some bad luck, I guess.
Was it the same crew that works on your ARCA car that works on the modified? Did they come down too, or was it a skeleton crew?
No, they all said no. They said that
you're on your own, huh?
Yeah, after Pocono, Pocono was pretty tough, and we got Watkins Glen coming up, and pretty much every single one of them said, no, we're not coming. My buddy Steve Mendoza came because he's a modified enthusiast, and which he actually doesn't. I mean, he goes to the ARCA stuff, but he hasn't really been as involved with my modified stuff the last couple of years because he's doing his tour mod stuff. So it was cool kind of having him back for some modified stuff. It was pretty much the worst 2 days ever. We broke the clutch yesterday, and it was like 150 degrees out, so we got to change the clutch on the blacktop, and that's our home built car, so I made it like really hard to get the clutch out. So he was quite miserable. He actually told me if I get a flat, don't pit, because he said he was done. He wasn't kidding.
Really?
I don't even think he rolled a tire out on pit road. He said, go race, like that's it. I'm not even changing the tire.
So it was just you and one crew member?
No, we had Steve. We had my buddy Matt. He's learning. He's pretty young. We had my stepdaughter Lexi. We had my friend Ed Schuler, who Ed Schuler knows his way around some of the race car stuff. So we had a couple guys. Obviously, Steve was far and away the most experienced as far as mechanical on the car and all that. So it was a light crew, but it wasn't a pit stop race. We didn't anticipate having as many problems as we did, and it's kind of a coin flip. Sometimes I guess that's probably going racing unprepared in the quote unquote wrong way. But throughout my time, I've sort of made a habit of just kind of winging it and getting lucky. And this is probably one of those weekends where some of my bad habits probably caught up to me, and
you weren't gonna rely on luck.
No, everything. That's how this year's been going. Like last year, we could do no wrong, and this year, just the little stuff keeps biting us. And we really, we kind of got it together yesterday. We were fastest in both practices, and the car felt really good. And we got halfway through the race, we were riding, and we broke the engine. So, I think we had it together yesterday. Yesterday was just some bad luck, and The deal with the clutch, that was like the third clutch we've gone through in the last 5 races, so we kind of deciphered that we had a different problem, so we actually borrowed a bell housing from another team. But just, who thinks about that stuff, bad bell housing, it's hard to check that stuff. So
really?
just some bad luck here and there, and just stuff that's, it gets a little overwhelming trying to keep up with everything when you end up with 5 race cars and a volunteer pit crew. So you kind of pick and choose. But we thought we had a bad clutch, so we put a new clutch in it. We had the same problem, so now we're trying to, it's diagnosing the problem, I guess.
How did you like North Wilkesboro? Because, I mean, just from an outside set of eyes looking in, it didn't look like you had a very good weekend. Not even a weekend. They raced Monday and Tuesday. But it didn't look like you had too good of a Monday and Tuesday. But how did you like the track? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it. It was great being there. Like I say, I'm an enthusiast for racing and the history of everything. So being there was just so cool. It's just frustrating for me because there's, with my competitive nature and, I know we can go run with, these guys that are up front in the top 5 and we've raced them before and to fall short on that a little bit's kind of disappointing. So, it was a tough couple days, but just being in North Wilkesboro and just sort of the way they left up all the old signs and everything. It's like a little time capsule, and it was. It was just something. It was a once in a lifetime thing, because stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore. When a track sits dormant, and I know they raced in 2011, but I mean, for the most part, that track has been abandoned for 20, 25 years for the most part. And they had a couple shows here and there, but those stories don't go the other way. They sit, and bam, there's a Walmart over there finally, and they say, oh, it doesn't ever happen this way. And to see it come back to life and just see all the people there that were just so excited to see racing at this racetrack. And it's just such a cool racetrack with so much history and just the style of the racetrack. And, the whole experience was once in a lifetime. And I'm really glad that we made the effort to get down here.
Yeah, it's funny that you point that out, too. Like, it's what Matt Dillner calls a lost speedway. And it's hard to get them back when they do go, because usually once, like you said, once they go, it's a matter of time before everything is leveled over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But take us through the ARCA season this year, because it's not really been the best year for you. I think you got, one top 10 so far this year? Or?
Yeah, and even that one, we crashed in the race and just sort of got back up there. We got taken out under caution in that race. That was Daytona. But I don't know. It's like 2021 just could do no wrong. Everywhere we went, we were just up front and good luck. And the modified stuff, we just couldn't lose a race anywhere we went. Just everything went well. And for whatever reason this year, it just seems like we just can't get our footing. And it starts to compound too, when you're so busy fixing, this car, and then, you have a problem with the next car, you're already tired from working on the previous car.
Right.
And, so that starts to add up a little bit too. And, I've never been one to really just kind of back down. If I say we're going to try to do it, as a team, if we're going to try to go to this race, I try to commit to it. And I never like crossing races off the schedule, so usually we'll just kind of truck it out and wait for it to get better. So that's kind of the mode that we're in right now.
Most of your guys volunteers. Is everyone a volunteer, or is anybody?
So when we go to the racetrack, our crew chief Mike Dayton. He's not a volunteer, but he goes out of his way to work with us, and
right, okay.
It's above and beyond. I consider him to be almost half a volunteer. I think he really enjoys it. Obviously, he can't do it for free because he needs to make a living. But
right.
For what he does, we certainly don't pay him enough. We have TJ Majors as the spotter. Obviously, we pay him for a race. Everyone else is just a volunteer. Or someone helping out. And
all of them from back home?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one of the crazy things, too, that I noticed between racing back home and racing down here down south. Even in even in the little outlaw carts that I race, like nobody wants to come over and help out or just come and help and hang out and work like we used to. You know, it used to be we would gather in the garage, a bunch of our friends, and work on the car and hang out and just do, you know, whatever, order food, pizza, and then go to the racetrack and try to see if the fruits of your labor, you know, paid off.
Yeah.
Down here, it's every man for themselves. I mean, when I'm constantly in the shop working by myself, you know, and just to get somebody to come over, just to even if to hang out, you know, or you know, just to talk to you while you're working on the car or something, or at least bounce an idea off of her. You don't get that.
You don't down here.
You don't.
You don't.
And which is another reason why I'm kind of slowing down with my racing too, because I'm out there in the garage by myself. I go to the track, I'm by myself, and just, you know, if I need someone to show up, you gotta compensate them, and even at that small of a level, you gotta do it. And it's not a lot of friend stuff anymore.
No, I'm really lucky. I have a really good core group of really experienced guys back home. You know, it's like me and my core group is like 4 guys that are in the shop regularly. Like they'll come 3-4 nights a week. And we all do something a little bit different. Like I kind of bounce around and can do a lot of the stuff, but we got one guy that's really good with the engines and the electronics. I got a welder fabricator. I got another guy that like fabricates, and my Uncle Jake, he does, you know, a lot of the mechanical stuff,
everything?
assembly. Yeah. You know, we got Ricky Hochter, he can build stuff. We got my buddy Jimmy, he can fabricate, weld. So we all kind of have different areas, and you know, a lot of times, like, I'm just kind of like, okay, like, I know Jimmy's gonna be good at this, so I'll leave this project for him, and maybe I'll work on this. I do the setup stuff mostly.
Okay.
You know, body fabrication's probably most of what I do, but you know, it all kind of works together. Like, I know nothing about wiring. I'm iffy on the engine stuff, so you know, we got a new guy this year. He came from actually, when I grew up, I was pit crewing for a guy named Carl Hare, and he retired this year, so I got one of his best crew guys. He came over to our team, and he's been helping out. So it all just kind of works together, and we make it work, and we've seen success. And you know, lately we've been struggling a little bit, and everything's a little stressed out, but you know, my guys always stick with me, and we'll bounce back from it.
How much have you learned with the ARCA car as far as, you know, the new setups and the way that they do stuff, aero, all of that? How much have you learned in that area of doing that ARCA racing? And is there any of that has bounced over to your short track stuff with the modifieds and the things that you've applied there? Any of that going on?
Absolutely. You know, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, because I'll learn something with the ARCA car, and then I'll try it with the modified, and sometimes it goes the wrong way. You think, oh man, I can't believe I never thought of that. You try it in the modified, and I'll struggle for a couple weeks. I'm like, all right, maybe that doesn't work. But yeah, a lot of it, you know, a lot of what I'm learning, it's made me a lot smarter. And working with Mike Dayton, who's very, very good at explaining stuff, and working with Andy Seiss, you know, who, you know, will sit down and teach me all this stuff, and it's just stuff that you never even think about. And
I heard you were one of the illustrious guests of the Harry Gant suite.
Yeah, I actually, so I started getting mail to the house at one point, and yeah, the kids actually thought I lived there. Like when I wasn't there, they were confused. They're like, "Well, where's Andy? He lives here, doesn't he?" So Andy Seiss's kids, they were actually asking. So you became
like friends with Lyle and Peyton.
Oh yeah. Lyle's cool. He's my little buddy. Peyton's funny. She's cute too. She's funny. So she seems really quiet. She's cute, and then judges. Like, no, like
she looks at you like
I'll be out in the garage, and I'll hear like the house like getting flipped upside down, all this commotion and all that, and it's Peyton. I think they call her the honey badger. So she's cute, and she's you know, but yeah, she can be a little troublemaker, I think, once in a while.
That's funny.
So
she's gonna make a good race car driver.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. The Andy was telling us about, you know, your ARCA stuff that you did get going in the beginning. You know, he brought you brought the car to him, worked on it, or he showed you how to do stuff. How much of an influence has he had getting you up to speed? And do you think that it would have taken you a lot longer?
I don't think I'd be ARCA racing if it wasn't for Andy.
Really?
Yeah, there's no way. I might have trucked it through and done Daytona once and been done with it, but he was my first phone call when I got. So the whole thing really started when COVID hit. I had no plans. I didn't know if I was ever going to do this. And when COVID hit, I work all winter at the pizza place, and I have a budget built up, and then I have,
that's
to go
the other
racing.
thing we're going to touch on for the listeners, that you're actually a pizza delivery driver.
Yeah. So basically, a couple years ago, my system was I would work 60, 70 hours a week all winter, save a bunch of money, and then flip-flop my schedule and just go racing all summer and be broke again and start again in the fall. So when COVID happened, I had just worked all winter, and I had a budget, and then I always had my other savings that just, I was eventually going to buy a house. I tried to be a little smart here and there. And when COVID happened, basically, when it was time for me to stop working, there was no racing, so I never flip-flopped my schedule. And we were one of the few restaurants in Buffalo that stayed open, so I was making like 3 times the money.
I was just going to say,
I was
you must
making
have been
unbelievable money. So,
everyone's on lockdown. They're all calling and ordering pizza, right?
Yeah. So I had this thought in my head that if I'm ever gonna do it, this is, and I didn't tell anyone about it. Honestly, I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anybody. But I called Andy, and I think I called Carl Fredrickson. They're the only 2 people I called, and I said,
Carl's a great guy.
Yeah, because you know what? Honest to God, the reason I didn't tell anybody, I didn't tell anybody until the day I was leaving. Until my mom, didn't tell my uncle, because I knew they would all talk me out of it, and I knew it would be pretty easy to talk me out of it because it was stupid. But, but I called Andy, and I'm like, what do I do? And he had a car for sale, but he was hanging on to it, and he suggested that I call Kenny Schrader. So I'm like, okay, let me try this. And I kind of knew what I was working with, and I knew it wasn't enough. And I called Kenny, and he had a car for sale, and he said it would be complete. And I'm like, and he gave me the number, and it was more money than I had, but it was closer to it was lower than I thought it was gonna be. I'm like, man, that's not too far off. So I'm like, give me a day. So I call him back. I'm like, would you go to this number? And he's like, and he went a little bit higher. And I'm like, I gotta be honest with you, Kenny. The last number I shot you, that was literally like everything. That was
all
my savings. That was I cashed in every savings bond for my grandma. That my grandma, I saved him every year of my whole life.
Wow.
Everything. And he's like, I don't want to leave you with nothing. So he actually went lower than my number. And I'm like, I'll be down there next week.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the whole thing was, I wanted to do it. Daytona was always my bucket list. I had 6 things I always really want to do in a race car. And a competitive lap at Daytona was one of them, not the petty driving experience. I had to race at Daytona.
Right, a real deal race.
Yeah, just race.
What were the other 5?
Well, I made this list when I was little, so you got to bear with me a little bit. My childhood mentor was Trey Hoddick. I wanted to win a race for Trey Hoddick, which I did. Mm-hmm. I wanted to flip over a car and keep going, which I did in Trey Hoddick's car. I had to win I had to win a modified race at Oswego. I wanted to win the Gamblers class.
Have you won?
Yep, I won the last time the Classic was ROC.
Okay.
In 2015.
Okay.
It was the best race of my life. I could never do it again.
Even better than the Race of Champions?
Oh my God! So, no, the Race of Champions was cool. This is this one day where if you gave me this race to do 100 times, I could probably never do it again. It was just the most perfect race. I passed Matt Hirschman. I was 3 times faster than Matt Hirschman. It's just who could? One time in my life. So lap 27. So it was our first time. The ROC had just switched to 20s and 30s. And Ricky Kluth was helping me, and we went testing at Lancaster, and we put this weird setup in the car. I'm like, this thing feels pretty good. So it was 20s and 30s, and we go there, and we had a bad draw for the heat. So I'm like, I'm going to pull off on the first lap of the heat and say I had a power steering problem, and we'll just start from the back because we're going to pit early anyway. We'll save the tires. So I pull in, I'm like, I tell the guys, take the hood off. Just make it look good. They take the hood off. They're all like, whatever. So we made it look good. So we go out there, and I'm like, let's pit around lap 25. So lap 27, we're out there. My air cleaner falls off. Caution comes out. So I brought out my own. I didn't mean to. So brought out my own caution, came in, put on the right rear, and Matt didn't pit, and he stayed up there. And we got up there, and we were just I passed him, and Joe Scott-Nicky was actually spotting for me. This is before he owned the ROC. And I passed him, and I was so excited because it was towards the end of the race. And I look in the mirror, and I put 3/4 of straightaway on him in 3 laps. He's like, slow down, save it in case there's a caution. And I'm just like, what's happening? Like,
how many laps are left?
I think I got him with like maybe like 20 to go.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to burn it up because there's going to be a restart. And I mean, he's Matt Hirschman, you know. I mean, he's Matt Hirschman. You know, you see the red car in the mirror, and
he's one of the best going right now.
Yeah, you just start making mistakes. But like I said, it wasn't my first modified win. It was like I think my second or third. But I mean, we were still pretty new to all this. But yeah, went out and won the race. So yeah, won the race at Oswego. Had to win the Gamblers Classic, which we did.
You did twice.
We did twice.
Right. So that must have been really cool, you know,
Yeah.
just to even do it once and then you do it again.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I've cried in the car a couple times. That was one of them because we fought so hard for that deal, and we were so close so many years, and you know, because we always went there with a fast car, and it was just always something stupid would happen, or something would go off wire. And
Is that your car or you drive for someone?
that's my car now that we won with. I was driving for Hoddick.
Okay.
And we were close to winning it a couple times with Hoddick's car. I ran second, drove up the backstretch wall. But just a lot of stupid stuff. Like okay, so the one year we go to Atlantic City, and at the time I was getting some help from somebody that had a connection with getting some diesel fuel. So we were getting like diesel fuel for the trucks. He had a trucking connection. So, you know, we put an auxiliary diesel tank, whatever, on the truck. You know, if it helped us get to a race, then cool. So cool, thank you. So for this race, we actually put it in a drum in the trailer. So just whatever, just saves money. So we put this in the drum. So apparently there's a building code violation with like having diesel. You can't make this stuff up. So we go out there and we set a new track record in practice, right? So we go out and we come in and we're all celebrating. They come over and they're like, well, how come you got fuel in the trailer? You can't bring fuel in. You can't fuel the car. I'm like, no, it's for the truck. And like James Michael Friesen from Canada, like Stuart's, I think it's his cousin, he's parked right next to us. He's got an auxiliary diesel tank in the back of his truck. I'm like, well, the guy next to us has diesel in his truck. It's just in the bed. They're like, well, no, yeah, but it's in like a tank.
It's in a tank.
It's in a tank. I'm like, well, what's the difference? It's not for the race car. The penalty was I had to go, and now with the indoor tracks, they're very sensitive to heat. The penalty was then they had 100 cars back then. I had to go first in time trials. I only got one lap.
Because of fuel for your truck.
Fuel for my truck.
It had nothing to do with the race car.
Weirdest deal ever. That was the penalty. So they send me out there.
And that was at the Gamblers Classic?
It was the Gamblers Classic.
You know why? Because of all the damn not the codes, the Teamsters and the unions, and you can't do anything without.
It's different in Jersey. So
right.
I got another funny story.
Everything is DOT run, and you can't do anything without an approval or.
So that was just, I don't know. They wanted to make sure it hurt, I guess, because it hurt. Because you can't come back from that. So, but we battled. So we went out, and you can't time trial first, and you need 2 laps to get the heat in the tire. So we time trial. So we were in like the D main or whatever. And we just battled all weekend, and I got into the race, and we drove through the field, and I got to Anthony Cecily. I drove up the backstretch wall trying to pass him on the last lap and ended up second.
It's great.
Oh, the race is over. The paramedic, I couldn't even get out of the car. I was so tired from the weekend. Like, it was just exhausting. But so like there's all these different, and it's true because there's building codes. So another one they got is you cannot weld in the building.
Right, okay.
So the one year we were really fast, and they had 2 races. So they had a Friday race, and that kind of set the Saturday race. So the Friday race, someone wrecks us, and we just ripped the whole front end out of the car. I was still driving for Hoddick. And I always brought a welder, but you cannot weld in the building. So it was like, well, what the hell are we going to do? Can we go weld in the street? They're like, no, you can't weld anywhere near, like nowhere. So like we needed to fix this car. So we took the axle out. We took the welder. We went back to the hotel. We put it on a luggage cart, and we draped it over with a blanket. And we went up to our room, and we had this and we were staying at some, I don't even know. It was like a Super 8. It wasn't the best place, but so we had all these people in, so we get everything up there, and we just brought it up into the room. We went into the bathroom, and I'm like, well, I don't want to burn the tub, so we put like an inch of water in the tub, and we're standing in the tub, and we welded the axle in the bathtub.
Oh my God. Why not? You couldn't do it out in the parking lot, right? I guess
that was originally the plan, but we couldn't find an outlet, and it's the middle of January, and it was like negative whatever degrees outside, and we gave up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because that was originally the plan. I'm like, there's gonna be an outdoor outlet. We'll just fry it up, throw it back in the truck, and we'll be done. We couldn't find an outlet out there, and it was snowing, and we're just like, man, like I'm over this. Like, I just bring it up to the room. So we did that. We patched it up, ran forth. But like I say, every year it was just something. And when there's 100 cars and there's a lot of good cars, and it's they do a lot of inversions. I mean, it just makes it tough. I mean, you could be the fastest car out there, and you need to have some luck with the indoor stuff.
Oh, I know. It's a barroom brawl with cars.
Yeah.
I was watching the YouTube videos earlier today, and you guys are just bumping and banging and beating on each other, and you're shoving each other. It's almost like a stock car race on a short track.
It's been getting worse the last couple of years. It didn't used to be quite as bad. It just seems like it's just kind of mayhem the last couple of years. They've been kind of trying to do it where it's like a 2-groove track, so they've been really working in the outside better. And now it's like, if the fast guy got to the front, he'd kind of be on the bottom, and that was kind of the end of the race. And now with like the 2 grooves and the crazy restarts, it's like everyone gets a chance. Almost like the fast guy has to take the top, and then maybe a guy that's not as fast has a chance to take a swipe. And
there's always those guys, though, that run very well in those TQ indoor races, like Rudolph. He runs really well. Cecily runs well. Flores. Yeah, we're gonna have him on the show. You run. What is it about the TQ stuff? Is it just you just adapt to it?
I always thought my best ability as a race car driver is I have very good reflexes. I was always really good in enduros when I was younger. I could always miss crashes, and I think just being a little quick, everyone that runs good has a really good, like tire grinding program. I think there's a lot to that people don't give a lot of credit to, and it's something that like I know we all spend time on. Like Flores has his whole team, and Rudolph has Chris Murphy and all those guys over there doing his stuff. And
because the track just accumulates like huge rubber, right? And because you'll just get tighter and tighter.
Yeah, you got to get them clean, and you got to know how to prep the tires, and you got to know what's coming with the track. Maybe
they allow you to prep the tires.
Well, like when we say prep, we like spray and grind. That's called prepping the tires, not physically. They used to.
What do you spray them with?
Simple Green.
Okay. Well, that softens rubber.
So they say. I don't know. You're allowed to use, so they'll test the tires. You're allowed to use Simple Green or Windex. Those are the only two things that are allowed to touch the tire. It used to be you were allowed to soak them, and they did away with that a couple years ago, which that was like mayhem back then, because we would be pulling them off and going outside and soaking them. And
oh, you're playing chemical warfare.
Oh, it was horrible.
That's bad.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. And we'd be in the shop. I mean, I would be wearing like the gas mask and all that. But I mean, I used to hate it. I would actually make a little room inside my shop with like cardboard. Like I would steal cardboard from work and like make this little like floor and everything, just so it wouldn't be in my shop. And just every indoor race, I'd have like a day where I did nothing but prep the tires, and then I just throw everything out, just get it out of there.
When I do it for the outlaw carts, we have to sand them down and all that. I actually take a giant 40-gallon garbage bag and cut the top in it, and then just put it over myself, because I know I'm going to get full of rubber, because the tire machine's slinging rubber all the time.
Yeah, and we do all that. Yeah, I just got the apron, but...
So getting back to your list. So how many more do we have to go? You won Gamblers Classic.
Won the Gamblers Classic.
Okay.
We got 5 done. I got one super important one left. I have a million goals. Like I got more stuff I wanted to do.
Like what? Let's hear them.
Well, the one left on the original 6 is I got to win the Spring Sizzler, because that's the race my father passed away in.
Yeah.
It's the biggest race in modified racing. So like if I can win that would be pretty good. I got a lot of stuff, and I've always had fun kind of chasing this stuff. I want to run every existing track on the 1970 Grand National schedule. When I was little, that was my favorite NASCAR season, because they had the Superbirds. So I was always a NASCAR buff, and that was my favorite season, because that was like one of the last years that the Grand National Series was really what it was. That's before it transitioned into the Winston Cup Series, where they cut the schedule. Like the 1970 schedule, like they went to Thompson, they went to Albany, Saratoga, they went to Langley.
Islip.
They didn't go to Islip that year.
70?
Not in 70. No, okay. They went there. It wasn't that year.
Excuse me.
But the 70 schedule was always my favorite. It just had, they went to Kingsport, they went to Greenville Pickens, but they went to dirt tracks too. I mean, a lot of them aren't there anymore, but that's one goal I've always, and that's why one of the reasons I went to North Wilkesboro when I could, because
you had a chance to run at one of those.
Cross them off, yeah. So with the ARCA stuff now, we're trying to cross stuff off.
Well, then it must have been huge for you to win at Hickory a couple of years ago when you won. Yeah, that was
awesome.
I thought that was one of the coolest things, because all these guys come rolling in with these stackers and their 18-wheelers, and here you are with an F-150 with just a regular, I don't know what it was. It was maybe a
1988
20 by 7 enclosed trailer or something.
Yeah, it's 24. It was a 1988. That trailer got us pretty far. We call it the Little Red Wagon.
And you came there and you kicked their asses that night.
So it's funny, the story I just told you about Oswego when I beat Matt Hirschman, that was 2 days before that Hickory race.
Really?
We ran
that's right.
It was on a Friday. We ran Holland on a Saturday. I ran second with the two-barrel car, and we threw everything in a truck, and we went down to Hickory, did the same thing, started dead last, came in, put the right rear on, swapped the lefts, and Cale Gale should have won that race. I mean, I was going to be second. He got held up by a lap car, but we were still going to be second. I mean, it was 27 cars there that day.
That was a huge race. I remember. A win's a win, man.
Win's a win. I lost one. I was leading Orange County, and like 2 weeks after that, me and Brandon Ward were battling, but I think I was better. I had one restart, and he was kind of hanging with me, but we were really good, and we came up. I think we were actually lapping. It might have been Burt Myers, but something happened in front of us, because we were lapping up to like fifth place. We were going, and they all crashed in front of us, and me and Brandon Ward piled into the wreck. I'm like, all right, well, now I won one and lost one.
Oh my God. So you've done the modified racing, you've done the TQ stuff. It is obviously a lot of the help that you get, with the people that are behind you, are also helping because they know the namesake. They know the lineage. Your dad passed away when you were, what, 2 years old? Mm-hmm. Do you remember him at all, or any? No. So there's no memory at all of your dad, and so it's just photos and. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's like, so my uncle passed away in a modified crash, like
the year prior, right?
Yeah, like 9 months before. So, my cognitive years were, growing up, and that was, had just happened, obviously. It was just before my cognitive years, but, I grew up in, like, this family where, on both sides of the family, like, Tommy and Tony were, like, the heroes. They were the reason everyone went to the track on Saturday. Mm-hmm. It was the lifestyle. Everyone in my family is involved with racing, and it all revolved around Tommy and Tony. Obviously, so my Uncle Tommy, my mom's brother, and obviously my dad was actually Uncle Tommy's crew member, my Uncle Tommy's crew member. Mm-hmm. So that's how I met my mom, married my mom. So I mean, it's just two families all in one. But I have racing representation on my mom's side and my dad's side.
It happens at a lot of short tracks.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's both sides of the family, so it's like the whole family. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, in a family that was missing them and idolized them and thinking about them, and they just passed away, really. And then they were my heroes because of that. I always wanted to get the old scrapbooks out, and I wanted to know everything I could about them. And we still got like boxes and boxes of scrapbooks, and I'd always go to my grandma's house and be looking at all the trophies and looking at all the pictures and hearing all the stories. And I just grew up idolizing them, and I've probably only realized it maybe like the last couple years as I kind of reflect on things and think about things and how we end up here. Like, I knew I wanted to go racing, but like the further I get into it, the more I realize, like, I think I wanted to go racing, not just for me because I love racing, but just because like I wanted to be part of that story, and I wanted to keep that story going, because like the story, the way it was, I mean, if they both would have passed away, it'd be the saddest story in racing, But now, my mom goes to the races. My Uncle Jake's been to like every race I've ever run, and we're still racing.
Do you think it's put like a bit of like liveliness or wind back in the family sails with you doing this?
We never stopped. When I was little, my mom brought me to the races. I think it took her a couple years, but when I remember being little and like, probably 5-6 years after. I mean, we didn't. So my dad passed away in '90, and I really remember going to the races probably like '95, which I mean that's when my mom started bringing me. I don't know if I ever really asked her, to be honest, but I know it probably took a couple years, but we were always still involved with racing. So now I kind of look at it now, and obviously we're doing all this stuff and we're traveling all over the place. We're modified racing and ARCA racing, and we're winning races. And, my family's coming with me. My mom's at all the races. My uncle's at all the races. And, we're still in it, And I think that's, now that I look at it all in a timeline and think about it and reflect, I think that's what's really important is, I'm racing and it's cool and I'm winning and it's cool, but it's more just about like keeping our story going. Like I'm racing a little bit for Tommy and Tony, and I think about them, and they're the reason I'm doing it.
Right. That's what was going to be my next question. Do you think they see you?
I think so. I talk to them in the car here and there, and it wouldn't make sense if they weren't there. Right. It's just.
What kind of memories does your mom bring up or talk about with them over the years, or what does she touch on?
It's funny. It's like we talk about it, but we don't talk about it. There's so many just happy stories and memories, and I mean they had so much fun. They were like, my dad was friends with Richie Evans, and they were going out, and I mean all the stories you always hear are just, they were always, I don't know how they did it, but they go racing all weekend and close the bar down every night, and then they go work 5 days a week, and just hanging out with Richie Evans and just this incredible journey that they went on for, and it was short lived. My dad was 29 when he passed away, but
he was liked by Richie. That was like one of the the things is that he just took a liking to your dad, and what I also think was cool is that the Evans family have kind of like, they've been huge fans of yours and accept you because you're all kind of kindred spirits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tara, I mean, Tara and Tommy, I mean, they bought my first set of tires for the ARCA car.
That's cool.
They always help me out. It's sort of, it's definitely a special friendship, and Richie and we get so busy, and they're over in Jersey, so I wish I got to see them more, and obviously we always keep in touch, but it's special, and they're just one more part of the story. And I think when I think about my racing, there's got to be like 1,000 people that are involved one way or another that keep it all going. It's not any like one person that's cutting checks or helping or doing this or working on the car. It's 1,000 people, and if you took away 100 of them, it probably wouldn't work. If you just had like 900 of the 1,000, I probably couldn't do it. It takes every single like effort of someone doing this or getting me to this next step, or like my Uncle Bob bought me my first street stock, and that got me by for a couple years. And then I had one guy noticed me in the sportsman and put me in a sportsman car, Jim Salzbeck. That's where my number 57 comes from. And I raced for him for 3 years. I didn't have enough money to go sportsman or SK type racing, and that got me by for a couple years. And then I was able to save a little bit of money, and I got a modified and started doing good with the modified stuff. And then like Tom McGrath came along, and he helped me out for a couple years. And just every single thing is like been a trajectory where when I was probably not going to be able to keep going, something happened that just kept everything going, and it's just been one thing after another.
Do you think that is because they want to see the Jankowiak name become a success?
I just think I'm lucky. I don't really know how else to explain it. I mean, it's impossible to think about where, if you think about how it actually worked out, it's nothing's impossible, and it could go 1,000 different ways. But like, there's so many just 1 in 100 like probabilities that just happen, and they just keep happening. It's like even like with the ARCA thing, everyone asks like, well, how do you keep it going? You're really supposed to, because the original plan was I was going to do one race and sell the car immediately, because that was my life savings, and this is crazy, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm like, but it was just, it's like sitting at the roulette table, betting the same number and winning 5 times in a row. And that's what I've done, and that's what I've been, that's the analogy I make to like how I've been able to stay in ARCA racing. And it's, and the luck is the people, just finding the right people, like finding Andy Seiss, getting Mike Dayton as a crew chief. Now Kevin Lapierre is super involved with Dax Markets, and he owns a bunch of different companies. He's part of V1 Fiber. And now we got all these great sponsors. We got Todd and Jody from Florida Safety. We got Bill Cart from Automotive Consultants. We got Bob Hill from Yukon Creek. We got Dominic from Planter Box, and all these guys just, they're excited about this deal, and
they're great sponsors.
They're great sponsors, but we're a small time ARCA team that's, we're not going out there to just drive around. We're going out there, and if we get our stuff right, we're a top 10 team, and fighting for top fives.
I can see that. Like Andy's situation, they don't run the whole season, but when they show up correct and ready to come and be competitive.
Yep.
As far as like the purses or the pay goes, is there anything that could be made from doing those ARCA races, or does it all just go right back into the car?
No, yeah. I mean,
really?
Yeah. Daytona and Talladega aren't the worst. Like, pretty much, like, I do the same. So when I'm running, I did this in Northwoods, so I do this all the time. Like, whenever I'm going somewhere racing, I look at what it pays to finish 10th. Because I'm like, on a bad day, I might be able to finish 10th. So, like, was 10th going to cover the tire bill? And so like Daytona, Talladega is like $5,000 for 10th. The rest of them are like $2,000 for 10th, which a set of tires is like $2,500. So, I mean,
$2,500 for a set of tires
for ARCA, yeah.
What does one tire go for if you bought a right rear
for ARCA?
Yeah, like if I wanted to say,
I don't know if you can do that. Actually, no. Actually, the general tire guys are cool. They probably let me do it, but
you have to buy a set at a time.
Typically, you do. You don't really. If you're gonna come and pit and put tires on, you're putting all 4 on. We joke about that. Like, we'd be like the team that.
It's over $500 a tire.
Yeah, it's like $550.
Wow.
It's like we joke about that, like, because we're like the low buck team. I'm like, yeah, we should be like the modified. Come in and 3-sticker it. Just leave the left front on.
The left front on. Yeah, right. Oh my God.
No, I mean, once you get there, I mean, the ARCA platform is. I mean, I'm existing in the ARCA platform right now, and we're doing it on a smaller. It is very, very like it's a lot of money, but I mean, we're racing Daytona, we're racing Talladega, we're racing Charlotte.
Right.
It's a lower rung of NASCAR, but it's NASCAR type racing. I'm racing against,
without a doubt.
I spent the year racing against Ty Gibbs last year, and we got I raced Chase Briscoe. There's Cup drivers coming down and getting their feet wet on like the road course stuff. I mean, it's high level racing.
That's new for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
the road course stuff.
Yeah,
you never
very
raced. You never raced road courses before.
No, and I didn't even get any practice last year. The thing broke the first lap of practice.
So wait a minute, you ran Watkins Glen for the first time last year, right? Mm-hmm. Driving for Teddy Marsh. Was it one of Ted's cars or was it yours? How did that whole deal come together?
Ted Marsh. So I always wanted to run Watkins. So I guess I'm trying to go. We're trying to go be competitive, obviously, but I'm also fulfilling dreams and all that. So the only Cup race I ever really went to and actually watched was me and my stepson would always go to. Me and my stepson Billy would go to Watkins Glen every year, and we go walk around. And every year he'd say the same thing. He'd be looking at me, and like he looked up to me, and like with the racing stuff, and he'd just look at me. He's like, "How come you're not out there? Like, why aren't you doing this?" I'm just like, "Well, it's tough, you need a lot of money, and I'm getting a little bit older and blah blah blah." And I just got sick of making the same excuse. So like that's kind of like a big part of where the Daytona thing came from. Like, I want to do this once. It's gonna drive me crazy if I'm 80 years old and I say I never did this. So like I'm gonna do Daytona, and then after Daytona, we got Kevin Lapierre got involved, because obviously we went to Daytona and we ran okay, and we got a little buzz going from it, and we were able to get some sponsors and. We just started picking up stuff like thermal foams from back home got involved, and Pinnacle Travel Staffing, and we got more people involved. Like, okay, like if we keep the car intact, we can keep going. And it just kept kind of going where we're like, okay, we got through Talladega. I'm like, okay, well, what do we got to do to get another car? And
is it a road course car or is it an oval car?
We have 5 cars now.
Okay.
So 2 of them are Kevin Lapierre's and 3 of them are mine. So we got through Talladega. and we didn't wreck the car. I'm like, okay, so how could we keep going? So Chris Auer had a car for sale. It was one of the cars that Andy Seiss worked on, and he offered me a really good deal on it. I mean, he was trying to help me out. I mean, he didn't give it to me, but it was, for what it was a very well-priced car. So we took that car, and we went. I'm like, I want to race Charlotte. Like, Charlotte, it was on the 70 schedule too.
Right.
But like, I want to race Charlotte, because Charlotte is just like,
it's Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Charlotte Motor Speedway Memorial Day is like the epitome of NASCAR to me. Like, Daytona's number one, Charlotte on Memorial Day is a very, very close number two.
It's a huge day in all of racing,
it's a
between
huge deal.
Monaco, Indy, the 600.
Yes, of course.
I get it.
Yeah,
it's
so
Speed Weeks in Charlotte.
I wanted to be part of that. I'm like, we're going to go there. We're going to put something patriotic on the car, which Andy Seiss was very adamant about, and I agreed wholeheartedly. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to go to Charlotte with a patriotic paint scheme and like go do that. So we did that, and Charlotte, went okay. We got lapped on pit road. We got our lap back, finished 9th, but we had good speed. Went to Pocono, finished 7th. So then the next one was Watkins Glen. So I remember I was sitting on, because like I say, this whole thing was supposed to stop after Daytona. My whole plan was like, okay, it costs $50,000 to rent a car for one race at Daytona. I'm like, if I could buy a car,
$50,000 to rent a car for one race.
For a mid-pack car.
I was going to say,
a Venturini car is probably more. It's a lot of money. I mean, I'm not going to get into everyone. I'm not going to speak for people, whatever.
Now, real quick, and I hate to change the subject.
No.
Do you think that there are rule changes or things that can be done in ARCA that could level the playing field for like low-budget guys like you compared to like the development teams?
I think ARCA really works hard to make that possible. Mm-hmm. I think they do a really good job. I just think fundamentally you're just fighting against teams that just are dying to go pay engineers to go tweak these cars.
Technology.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, if you, like I say, when you're racing against teams that, can have 3 people that can go, play in a wind tunnel or play on a pull down for a week. I mean, it's just hard. But how do you stop it, And I think ARCA does a really good job curving it. The Ilmor, with the Ilmor engine, there's tech support at the track. It's an expensive engine, obviously, but if you look at it compared to what they were doing before, guys were paying $50,000 per race to rent a cup teams, have a cup team build their ARCA engine. Mm-hmm. So now you got the Ilmor engine. Everyone's got the exact same engine. There's tech support at the track, and it does level the playing field. And it is obviously, it's Ilmor, it's high end. It's not cheap,
right.
But if you really look at it, what you're spending versus what they were spending, I mean, it's fractions, and right. It's possible. You know what I mean? It's more than a modified engine, but it's not like we're spending $50,000 a race. Our cost on an engine per race is probably, you have to figure it out, but maybe like $5,000.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it's a lot of money.
But compared to 50,
right?
Right,
it's a lot of money, but it's level now too. And then you got the composite bodies. I mean, everyone's playing with them a little bit. I mean, Andy Seiss shows me how to play with ours, but like
that was the other thing too. The bodies, you're not like sitting there sending these things to the body guys, which are pushing the quarter panels all over the place. And
we are. Everyone is. I mean, we don't know as much as the top teams, but everyone's playing those games. But it's easier for a team like us to get that close than it would be for a team like us to build a body out of steel. Mm-hmm. Like if I build a steel body and Gibbs builds a steel body, they're going to annihilate me. If we both have composite bodies, I think the Gibbs car is going to be better, but we're going to be a lot closer. And I think, and ARCA works really hard to make that, for what we're doing on a budget, we can go run top 10. At Charlotte, we were running 5th when that tire blew out.
Right.
And
that's got to be a good feeling, though.
It is
to show up and be like, here we are competing with, Gibbs and Venturini.
It's cool, but it's doable. And then when you got, Mike Dayton is a smart dude. He's my crew chief. He was the crew chief over on Stanton Barrett Steel on the Cup side forever. Mm-hmm. Like, he is just smart. And he can sit and we'll just work on that front end. He knows how to coil bind. So, I have a big advantage with that. I'm getting a lot closer than a lot of guys in my budget range are, because I have a guy like Mike Dayton. And then I have Andy Seiss. So, obviously, Andy's, I think he works 200 hours a week. So,
He's a
busy
worker,
boy.
man. He's a racer.
But,
the whole
you know,
family are racers. They
yeah.
are. They're great people.
When but you know, the time he can give me, I mean, he gives me knowledge, and he's saying, okay, we'll do this, and I mean, it's just, you know, we use every little bit we can, and it gets us a little bit closer. But like I say, it's ARCA does a good job, you know, making it possible. You can't make it. You know, it's not a street stock. It is what it is.
Right.
You know,
is Andy a way? Excuse me. Is Andy in a way like a mentor to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at everything we did, I copied the Andy Seiss model, and it's funny because we're only a year apart in age.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny because I look at him as like, you know, this guy I'm like aspiring, like I'm working, like I'm like 10 years behind him basically, but I just did it later, I guess. Basically, it's just the difference.
Wow, it's just amazing, and all of this, and now we're gonna circle back around to how this led to Watkins Glen. So,
Yep.
So now, you've never run a road course in your life. What was that like running at Watkins Glen? Were you like, what the hell am I doing here?
Well,
or?
let me back up a little bit because I was going somewhere with that. So we were at Pocono and we ran 7th, and I remember I grabbed a beer after the race, and I walked out on pit road, and I was the only guy on pit road, and I was just sitting there. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I'm sitting here at Pocono, I'm just looking around, and I had my tablet, and they had Wi-Fi, so I had internet. So I took a picture on the front straightaway. I'm like, this is pretty cool. You know, I think we're going to do Watkins Glen. It's always been a dream of mine, and like my stepson Billy always wanted me to go, so we're going to do it. We're going to flip-flop this car around. We're going to hack this car up, and we're going to make it into a road course car. And like Ted Marsh saw the post, so he calls Andy. He actually called Andy. He's like, give me this kid's number. So he calls me. He's like, dude, and he's like, you know, he's just like, I never see the guy without a smile on his face.
Oh, Ted Marsh?
Yeah.
Super guy.
So like, he was like as polite as could be, like happy guy, like basically telling me like you're insane, like just you're not cutting that car up. I mean, you have no idea how much work's involved in that. And he's like, you know, saying with a smile, like you'll never get it done. Like there's no way.
Right.
So he's like, I got this car. Just come get this car. And I'm like, okay. So like what are we doing? He's like, just come get the car. Just come race the car. Don't worry about it. So we go and get the car, and there was a lot of stuff because it was a K&N car, and he hadn't raced in a few years. So we had to do a bunch of updates, and we put my engine in it, and I kept Teddy in the loop on the whole deal on what we were doing. He said, yeah, take it. Use as long as you want. He says he gave me the car. I told him, like, Ted, it's your car. Like, I don't really know. I just think I'm just going to race it, and then that's the end of it. So I'm not really sure. I consider it Ted's car. He says he's never asking for it back, so we never really figured that out. But Teddy Marsh is just I mean, he's another. He's
an old modified guy too,
right,
at heart, and he remembers the Evans and the Jankowiaks and those guys.
That's another. When I talk about the roulette wheel, betting the same number, like, you know, I was probably going to get like halfway on that deal and spend, you know, $20,000 on brakes and parts and everything, and not even be able to get that car converted for a road course car, or I just would have cannibalized my intermediate car, and it probably wasn't going to happen. But like there again, like something happens. Like Ted Marsh calls me. He's like, hey, you know, go do this with my car. I'm like, okay, that way better deal. You know, I was, you know, 3/4 of the way ahead, you know, doing it that way. So, and that's what I mean. I just keep getting kind of lucky and fortunate, and that's the way the ARCA thing has gone. You know, just after Daytona, you know, Kevin LaPierre calls and he's like, hey, you know, I think this is really cool. You know, let's keep this going. To just get to Daytona, I had Bill Catania. You know, when I bought that car, I had no sponsorship. I'm like, I think I could get through one, and I'll just sell the car. So Bill Catania, you know, we put together a proposal, and Bill Catania from One Rail is like, yeah, I'll sponsor you for a race. I think it's cool what you're doing. I admire the ambition. So he gets us Daytona a lot better than we were going to be. And we go there and we run good. And then Kevin LaPierre comes along, and he's like, this is cool. I want to get involved. And then, you know, Florida Safety and Yukon Creek. And it just keeps adding up, you know. And it's just one thing after another. It was never planned. It was like when I bought that car, I could not wait to sell that car. That's all I could think about was selling that car.
And don't wad it up before you sell
crash. Just don't crash. Just go to Daytona and just, you know, we went to the test, and we weren't really good in the test. We were just like, I'm just watching guys drive away. We're like 2 seconds off, and I'm just like, I'm driving back to Andy Seiss's, and the whole deal was we were going to leave the car at Andy Seiss's. And the test is in January. The race is in February. So we get to Andy Seiss's and unload the car, and I think I had work the next day, or like 2 days after, and
delivering pizza.
Yeah. So I basically I had a truck. I think I had my spotter Sue and another one of my crew guys was with us, and we're just gonna load the car. Okay, I'll come back a week before the race and we'll wrench on it a little bit. And I'm just gonna go to Daytona and do the best that I can. I don't know how to work on an ARCA car, and so we unload it, and Andy Seiss, and he's super dry. He's funny because he he doesn't have a we do shop days once in a while, but usually it's Andy Seiss comes home from work, goes and eats dinner, comes out to the shop, looks at the car for a half hour, and gives me 3 things to do and goes back in the house. And in a way, I almost as much as I love Andy Seiss, I almost well, let me get a little bit further. But so we unload the car, and Andy's just looking at it, and he's looking at it, and he's like, okay, we had the small air cleaner, and because the engine was too far back, and he's looking at all this stuff, and he just looks at me, and he's like, so what are you doing the next month? I'm like, I don't know, I gotta work tomorrow. He's like, yeah, you ain't going home. I'm like, what do you mean I ain't going home? He's like, you want to go fast, or what do you want to do? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to go. And I'm trying to be Andy, because you got to picture Andy, because Andy's just dry. He don't sugarcoat it. He's like, oh wow, this is a great car. It's super shiny. Andy's like, no. I was like, that's wrong. You gotta fix that. That's not even close. You got to do all this stuff. He's like, and he just looked at me. He's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I gotta go to work. He's like, you ain't going home. I'm like, what do you mean I ain't going home? He's like, you want to go fast? You ain't going home. So I'm like, I thought about it, and I'm like, well, can I stay here for a little while? He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, okay. So
you didn't even know him that well yet.
I knew him, but I didn't know him that well.
Right.
So I'm sitting there because I'm thinking, I was just happy someone was because I didn't want to bring the car back to Buffalo, because honestly, it didn't even have antifreeze in it. I just wanted to leave it in North Carolina. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this. So I called work, and I'm like, listen, I'm going to get all my shifts covered. I'll do all the work, but I'm not quitting, but I'm not coming home for a couple weeks. And they're like, whatever, as long as you get your shifts covered, we don't care. So we're driving the truck and the trailer. I gave Sue Lewis the keys, and I said, drive the truck and the trailer back. Andy had a spare car to use.
For you to get around.
Yeah, because I didn't have a car. I didn't plan any of this. Yeah. And I was just
weird.
You
got the keys to the Harry Gann suite.
Yeah, I remember going to bed that night because I was I didn't plan on staying there, but they had to go to work because it was Sunday or whatever. They had to get home. And I watched my truck and my trailer drive away, and I'm just like, what did I just get myself into here? And so the first thing he said was the air cleaner was too small. The only way to do it was move the engine ahead. So I woke up the next day, cut the engine out of the car, just started hacking mounts off, and Andy came home. He's looked at it all right, you're going to try. I'm like, I'll try, just tell me what to do. And I almost began to resent Andy a little bit, and jokingly, because I would wake up every day, and all I had to do was work on that car. I couldn't go nowhere really. It was 16 hours a day on a race car.
Mm-hmm.
I slept 8 feet away, so it wasn't like I had a commute or anything.
He would come home, tell you what to do, and then go inside.
Yeah, and I go and I'd work and work and work and work and work, and then he'd come home and be like, and I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm finally getting this. And he'd come home, he's like, nope, that's wrong. And it was just every day I'd think okay, I got it, and then he would just come and just burst my bubble every day. Be like, nope, you still got to do that. And I must have stayed there a month.
That's what I had heard. Yeah,
I went home, I think, for maybe a week in between the test and the race.
Did you fly home?
I don't remember what I did.
I think you only had a borrowed vehicle, right?
You got. I mean, there's been a lot of I'm pretty sure Bill Catania bought me a plane ticket home after a while. Wow. So yeah, I think I flew home for a week and then came back for the race. But I mean, we worked on that thing. So Andy told me listen, there's a guy at Timmy at PVW. He'll let you borrow templates. I'll make a phone call if you want to do it. I'm like, yeah, I want to do it. So he makes a phone call. I go over, borrow the templates, and just everything he told me to try to do, I would try to do. So we moved the engine, we played with the body, playing with fenders, moving stuff. Just every little thing we could do, we tried to do. And we went back for the race, and I think like the changing moment in all this was we went and we finished second in practice to Ty Gibbs, and that was just like
holy cow.
It was like a holy cow moment, but it was just like we had the headline, like it was Ty Gibbs edges Jankowiak on like the ARCA website, and like, you know, we got this sponsor with One Rail, and he's like all pumped up, like, you know, he's helping this kid out, like we got like his name plastered over everything,
right?
And you know, we started getting a lot of attention, and all of a sudden it's just like, wow, what are we doing here? And then we go out in the race, and you know, I think we beat Ty Gibbs. I remember sitting on the grid, and Ty Gibbs was behind me on the grid, and Venturini was in front of me on the grid, and I'm just looking at him, like looking at these two cars. I'm just like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? And we went out there and we ran well, and we just had such a buzz going from it, and like the spark just went off in my head, like we could really go find some sponsorship and keep doing this.
Right.
And I had to learn on the fly how to do it. I had to learn how to market and do all this stuff and build the proposals, and we just kept finding stuff.
That's the other thing that that I think helps you too is your personality. I mean, the tuxedo fire suit, the big glasses that we talked about, wearing the bandana, flip flops, wearing your fire suit. You know, I mean, hell, even when you won the Race of Champions, you gave me a hug on live television. So like those little things, like drivers never do that to a reporter. You know, they don't jump out of the car and give a hug to the guy interviewing them, but you did.
Yep.
You know, so it's I think it's those things that I think make those sponsors and things like that gravitate towards you, and the fact that, you know, you work your ass off, you know, you're blue collar, and you know, it's all with hard work and homework.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to explain it, and I don't want to give myself too much credit, and like I say, I think the only thing maybe you could say, like, I'm not in this to make a penny. You know, everything that I can give goes to the race car. You know, and I think that aspect of it, kind of the blue collar nature of that, you know, because you know, we're ARCA racing and we're winning modified races, but we're still like Saturday night short track racing. Like, you know,
do you ever wish that you were born years earlier, where drivers got rides based on their talent, not because they're buying them now?
You know, it's easy to think about that stuff. I mean, I would, you know, love it being around in like the 70s and just wheeling one of those, you know, like Chargers around like Greenville Pickens or something on a 120-degree day. But, you know, I don't know. I think that you got to adapt to kind of the situation that you're in. And,
right.
You know, a lot of people will tell me that, you know, they'll call me a throwback. And, you know, if I kind of represent some of those, you know, people that did it a little bit differently back in the day, you know, maybe we don't always go to the track with pristine vinyl on the car because there just wasn't time to do it that week. I mean, I like to keep my stuff looking nice. You know, we don't like to look, you know, too silly. And when I was younger, I used to just duct tape the cars, and it got to a point where it was just, you know, we kind of look stupid sometimes. But,
but now you builded them.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, you built your own modified that you won the Race of Champions with, in an age now where you've got, you know, Fury, Troyer, LFR, how many different chassis manufacturers are out there? Even Rick Luth with the Two Quick chassis. You built your own and won with it. Like, first off, how gratifying does that feel? And number two, whatever possessed you to build your own modified in today's day and age?
So I grew up racing with a guy, like when I was a crew member. I was crew member for Carl Hare, and he worked with a guy named Trey Hoddick. Now, Trey Hoddick was a really good friend of my dad's, and and he was just a mentor of mine. So those were the race car shops I hung out at, and they always built race cars. And then my other really racing mentor would be Billy Mislin, and he actually bought RE Speed from Billy Nazowitz. So he was actually building the RE cars in Buffalo, and he was another mentor of mine. I hung out in his shop. It was my first job, and I grew up watching these guys build race cars, and I just thought, like, that's what I want to do. I want to build my own race car and go to the racetrack. So it's something that never escaped me. I ended up driving for Trey Hoddick with the midget, and we ended up parting ways after a while. And I wanted to build my own midget, and Ricky Kluth, who I had been working with, offered to help me build a midget. So that was like my first
TQ, not a full midget.
A TQ midget, yeah.
Right.
So we built the indoor midget that I race. Sorry, I'm like kicking
And
my
won
table
with,
there.
right?
Yep, we won with it.
Another car you built and won with.
Yep. So that midget, was really like me and Ricky Kluth built it. But, it was, Ricky was helping me. And so I was watching what Ricky was doing, and I was, with his guidance, and we built that car together. Mm-hmm. But that kind of gave me a lot closer insight, because that was my first time really having my hands on building a car. And as soon as I got done with that midget, like, I knew I wanted to like do it again. So that's when like I wanted to build a modified. So I went to the shop, I put a rear end down, I put the engine down on the ground, and I just measured where I wanted everything, and I kind of made a little map, and I made the floor, like basically on the shop. I just laid all the parts out because I didn't have a jig.
So you didn't have a jig at all?
No, I got pictures of the stuff I could send you. So, Billy Mislin had a jig. He had a, it's basically just like two pieces of like.
That's what I heard. It was
iron.
two I-beams.
Two I-beams, yeah.
That's what I heard.
So I had a flat thing to work on and weld on, but there weren't any fixtures. Mm-hmm. So everything that I did was basically just I laid the car out the way I wanted it. I built the tires on the rear end. I put the engine. I put the transmission on it. I connected it with the drive shaft. I'm like, okay, this is where I want the car. And I just would constantly go back and forth between the jig and measure where I wanted everything. So I made the floor, and it just kind of kept. I didn't even know if I was going to finish it. I'm just like, all right, let's just like poke around. So I bought some 2x3, and I kind of made like the floor. And then Jimmy, my crew member that I told you likes to weld, like he kind of got excited once he saw what was happening, and he just started picking away at it a little bit. And I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to try, and we were kind of getting to where we were ready for a new car, because we had an 04 Troyer, which I still have actually. We're clipping it now, but we just had some ideas I wanted to try, and it was almost easier just to start with something new than it was just to keep hacking up the old stuff. And I didn't want to go buy a brand new like Troyer car, because I knew I would never cut it up. And this car, because when you spend all that money, you got to justify the money.
Right.
So you're never going to take something nice and get in there with the Sawzall. When I built this car, I didn't care.
Right, you can do that.
Right, so we built it, and it was slow. It was like bad slow.
I was just going to say, how do you find the time with all of these race cars and then to build another car?
So we built it, and it was slow. So we went back to the shop after I think I ran half a season with it, because I was driving for someone else in the modified at that point. So I had a ride. So this is kind of like my side project. Like all my Western New York racing was covered. So I would take my car and go to New England 4 or 5 times a year and just try stuff. We'd go to Bowman Gray with it. Just that was my play around car. And so it wasn't good. So every chance I got, I bring it back in the shop, and I cut something off it and try something else, and cut something off it and try something else. And twice we cut the whole floor out of the car before we finally hit on something. We never won a race with the car until last year. And when I really worked on it, so when COVID hit, I really hacked the car up, because we didn't race the car in that 2020 season. Mm-hmm. So when 2021 came around, we finally got the thing back on the ground, went to Lancaster, beat Patrick Emmerling, won the first time out. I'm like, we finally hit it on this thing. Then we won the Tommy Tony Memorial, my dad's memorial race, and then we won the 250 with it.
That's got to be a great feeling, winning your dad and your uncle's memorial race. I mean,
yeah, it's cool.
That had to have been a tearjerker that night.
Yeah.
Was the whole family there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the second time we did. We did it once in Lancaster and once in Holland. So.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Not only once, but twice.
Yep.
Wow. We are getting closer to the end of the show, but what's next for you? What's next for you on the schedule this year for racing? And in the distant future, do you ever see yourself being maybe a chassis builder?
No.
No.
No. I like racing. I like, I'll build it for myself if I think it's going to help, but I don't enjoy building the chassis so much. I enjoy it. It's gratifying, but I'm doing it because I think I can build something better, and I'm trying to go beat that 60 car. So
when it turns into work, it's not fun.
No.
I get it.
Yeah, no, like I say, I like working on my stuff. I like trying to go faster, and that's what excites me, and that's what motivates me. But I don't think I had the motivation to make a business out of it. And, we probably don't build the prettiest cars, so I'm not really sure anyone would want to pay me to do that anyway. So
listen, Lenny Bowler used to say all the time, "Don't have to be pretty to go fast."
That's fine.
You know, and that's what the other thing that I think why you get that fan base too is that you don't have the biggest budget that all these other guys do. You build all of your own cars compared to guys that are getting cars manufactured, and I think that is another reason why people start to become a Jankowiak fan, is because you do it all. You build them, you drive them, you win with them. So what's next this year? What's going on? Because the end of the season, well, we're halfway through the season, and I guess you're getting ready for pizza delivery season through the winter.
Yeah, probably. I should probably show my face up there one of these days.
You ever worry about getting fired? I mean, you want to give them a plug, and give them a plug right now, and
So basically,
tune in and check them out. Give them a little business. I mean, they're letting
Bob,
you do this.
Bob and John's La Hacienda, the owner Tom, he's really cool. He comes to some of my races, and after the Pocono wreck, so I'm responsible for 5 shifts a week. I'm scheduled for 40 hours a week, and I haven't been there in probably at least 2 weeks now, just because we've been on the road.
How much money are you leaving on the table by not being there?
I don't know. It doesn't matter if the car's crashed. The only reason I do any of this is to go racing. So if I can't, that's always been my justification with it. Is if I can't go racing, there's no point to any of it. So if I got to take off work to go racing, I got to take off work to go racing. So as soon as the Pocono crash happened, I basically called the owner and said, hey, I'm not quitting, but you're not going to see me for a while. I'll get everything handled. I'll get everything covered. But I'm going to be long gone here for a minute. With Watkins Glen coming up now, obviously, and we had the Tommy Tony Memorial, and I knew I wanted to do this North Wilkesboro thing, and I'm thinking about Claire. I don't know. I mean, we got so many problems with the modified this weekend. I'm not really sure where we're going to go.
ROC modified?
The ROC modified. We only have one modified.
Okay.
I wanted to go to Claremont, support the Dick Williams show. We got to get that thing better than it is right now, because we're kind of skimping on stuff and struggling, and so we'll see. But yeah, no, Work's really cool with working with me on. I get so I trail off so much in these stories. Work's really cool about working with me on everything, and as long as I get my stuff covered. If I don't get a shift covered and no one shows up, they will fire me, and they made that very, very clear. So
really, how many years you been there now?
14.
I
started Halloween 2007.
You know what you got to do? Okay, this is what you have to do, and this is how you're gonna. You got to market yourself as a pizza delivery guy. You got to go to Papa John's, Domino's, Pizza Hut, all of them, and market yourself as this pizza guy that also drives a race car. They would latch onto that, and the ad campaigns would be great. You're delivering pizza in the ARCA car. You pull up at a number 73, car, or you're modified. How funny would that be? I mean,
the idea has been kicked around.
Put the proposal together. If you can put proposals together and do that, go right to all these pizza joints and do it. For real, do it.
It's on the agenda. Honestly, it's amazing when you get so busy with all this stuff, the stuff that you just don't have time to get to.
I know.
A lot of our sponsorship stuff, we've been lucky, is a lot of it's really been inbound. I haven't had to work too hard at a lot of it. We try to spend more time really working on, the social media and how we're going to present them. So, we're working on that stuff more. I mean, I do the proposals and we send everything out and we do everything the right way. But, a lot of our stuff has really been inbound. A lot of it hasn't really been going out and chasing stuff, or it's been like, hey, this guy might be interested, and we'll go talk to them and kind of see where their market is and what they're trying to do. And even this planter box, Planter Box Direct's been on with us for a couple of races now, and I went to them and we had a sit-down meeting, and I'm like, look, I'd be excited to do this because, I know I could sell you some planter boxes. We'll bring the planter box to the racetrack. This is something that communicates well with race fans. And I sold them on it, and they loved it. And they called me last week, and they said they got a couple new partnerships out of the just the Pocono race. And
really,
yeah. So
that's
awesome. That's exciting to me, is when we actually, because we're asking for less sponsorship money than the teams are racing against. So I take pride in trying to be a avenue that's viable from marketing. I want a company to come to us and be like, yeah, the amount of money you're asking versus like we're going to get TV time and you guys are getting a ton of hits on social media and you guys are doing all this creative stuff. We brought the planter box to tech with us. I mean, the crew chief was pissed, but
what is the planter box? Is it for...
It's a planter box. So they make they make steel planter boxes and we put plants in it, and I had my social media, like I saw one guy.
So now you need to make like a planter box, but be that as your tool caddy that you can walk along with it. Yeah, there's another way to I'm telling you, I can see it now. Planter box, tool caddy, Pizza Hut on the side of the car, number 73 Chevrolet. That's you, man.
Whatever works, man. But I like being viable. I like when like automotive consultants, like if we can help get him like one car sale, maybe that's like part of the sponsorship. I mean, I think if we make a cost-effective like sponsorship programs, people can use that TV time and parlay that into making money. Like I would love it if it was, and that's what we try to be. That's what we want to be, somewhere where, the people that are sponsoring us are doing well and it's helping us go racing. And if they all work together, if they're making money and we're racing, then the partnership, it can exist and last. And why wouldn't you keep going? We're trying to build something that can last.
And you're doing a great job doing that. And we also want to thank you for coming on the show and coming in and visiting us. I know, you live all the way up in Albany, New York. So
Buffalo.
Buffalo. I just took the chance of just saying, hey, if you're in the area, come on in.
I love it. Like I say, I've just, I try to tune in when I can and watch your stuff. And obviously you had Andy on here, so we watched that one. That was pretty cool. So flattered that you would ask me, and it's cool to be on. And I hope I didn't talk too much.
Oh, you talked great, and we appreciate everything that you shared with us. But thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Good luck this season and in the coming seasons. And I will see you at the Race of Champions in September.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. That is Andy Jankowiak joining us on the Derek Perniciglio Show. Want to thank you for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you the next time. Bye.